guys.
He came from a place where the older roads taught a boy how to fix things fast, where a problem's just a puzzle and a dream can outlast the past. Now he's sketching little universes in the glow of a midnight screen, building pieces you can trust in your hands, smooth like a well-oiled machine. And he'll show you how a menu opens like sunrise on a misty morn, how a pop-up falls so natural you'd swear it's how the world was born. He's the man who builds a never-ending road, turning simple little sparks into stories yet untold, from the hum of every workflow to the dreams he helps unfold. Yeah, Ben's the one who shows you how the quiet code turns bold. He's carved 100 clever pathways for the lost and the rushed and the worn, teaching folks to tame the chaos till the clutter turns clean and warm. When he breaks apart a concept like a craftsman with a steady hand, he'll take a tangled mess of wild ideas and turn them into something grand. Every screen becomes a system, every click becomes a song, when he's drawing out those hidden lines that were humming there all along. He's the man who builds a never-ending road, where the slowest hearts find rhythm and the heaviest loads unload, from the spark inside a novice to the pride of teams that grow. Ben shows them all the beauty of a well-designed workflow. And when the night turns rough, he's a lantern in the fog, teaching how to shape a moment like a writer shapes a monologue. Makes the old world feel modern, makes the hard things feel light. And he'll rewrite the scene for you till the broken parts fit right. Oh, he's the man who builds a never-ending road, where every scattered dream can finally find its place to go, from components built like constellations to the stories in his code. Ben reminds us all that structure is the language of the soul. He's the man. The slowest hearts find rhythm and the heaviest loads unload. He's the man who builds a never-ending road.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the N365 show. Today's episode is all about Canvas magic you wish you learned sooner. Reusable pop-ups, dynamic menus, micro components, and UI patterns that turn your app into polished products.
So first before we start, so I love American country music, and that's why we choose this song for today. I hope you like it, Ben. Welcome to our show. Today we want to talk about real components in Power Apps. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. That song was awesome. That was pretty good. I wonder if it'll win an award at the next Country Music Awards. So.
Did you like the cartoon version of you? I saw the resemblance.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Well, joining us today, the one and only component wizard, Ben Fetters. Could you introduce yourself? How do you get started and everything like that?
Yeah. So I got started in Canvas apps, Power Automate, and this whole world about 7 or 8 years ago. I work for a company that does a lot of things in the SharePoint world. And so I I heard that Power Apps was a thing. and Power Automate was a thing, and I was told to go and learn them. That they were the new tool, right, that was coming out, and I should learn them. I was going to school for business, and I started learning these tools and things, and so I never actually learned like real professional coding or anything like that. I tried to learn, a little bit of HTML and things like that here and there, but I really started loving Canvas apps and Power Automate, and I started building different solutions for this company that I work for, and then about a year ago, I started getting into training, and so now I have my own little training company as well that I have. I've done multiple online courses now, and some live trainings, and so now I'm switching over into this training world, which is super fun, and talking to people. I've been this community is such a cool community. It's really, really fun. There's so many people share so many awesome things here, and so it's fun to be a part of it and help people and be on awesome shows like this to share some knowledge and help people out in their learning journeys. So yeah, was that good enough?
Yeah, definitely. That was great. Thank you for your background and everything. And we're excited to dive into a couple things. Anything else you want to share before we get started?
I think the only thing I'll say is today components are a little tricky if you're just getting started, but I'm hopefully going to make these simple and easy enough. So if you're just getting started, this can be a nice, helpful thing to do, and to learn about. Components are really fun to play around with. You can spend hours building them very easily. So anyways, yeah, I think that's it.
Okay. Yeah, I can confirm that completely. So let's get started with some pop-ups. So pop-ups are the soul of interactions, confirmation dialogues, forms, warnings, step flows, you name it. Ben, teach us the components that saves makers hundreds of hours. Do you want to show us how you do dynamic width and stuff like that? What would you like to get started with the pop-ups?
Yeah, let's talk about with pop-ups. I can share a little bit of an example, and then I can dive into, hey, here's how components are working. How is it even helpful to have a component, right? Can you guys see my screen, or is that? Just want to make sure. Okay. Oh, this is really cool. I like this. This is cool. So here I have my little app that I use for presenting things. So I've got a few other screens in here, but the only ones that we can really pay attention to, at least, is this home screen right here. I've also got a vendor screen.
Sorry, Ben, could you zoom in for people like me? I cannot. Yeah, that's my issues. Much better. Maybe just one more zoom would be great. Great. Fantastic.
Ooh, that's better. Okay. Awesome. Yeah, let me do full screen mode too. There we go.
Awesome.
Okay, cool. Okay, I like it. So I have a little home screen template here. So if you didn't know this will be a side thing, but we've got these template screens. And so I've just added a welcome screen, a header and table screen, and a form screen, or where is it? Somewhere around here. Header and form right there. So I've added just a few little template screens just because we don't care too much about what's going on in the app, but here's like an example, right? We have a few different screens in our app, and there's times when we want to have a component when we want repeating things going on in our app. So usually components are, right, so pop-ups, menu navigations, top headers. So this could be a component, right? So this is a top header. So anything that's going to be repeated multiple times in your app you could have it be a component. That's usually when I would recommend using them. And you can also use components across multiple apps. So if you want to build a menu navigation, you can use that same component across multiple apps that you're building. And so we'll talk about kind of, later on, we'll talk about how do you kind of manage your components and things like that. But what's really helpful about them is they make it so you don't have to rebuild the same thing multiple times. And they also make it so you don't have to, when you need to make a change, you're not changing it in all those different places, right? So a lot of times that happens in Power Apps where you're, right, if you're not using a component, you've got your top header right here. So even this is a good example. So I've got this little top header right here. It looks the same across all these screens, but this isn't a component, right? So if I start to change how this looks, I need to change it here, and then I got to go to this screen, I got to change it here, and then I go to this screen and I change it here, right? And so it takes up so much time. Whereas when you use a component, you change it once, and that applies to everywhere in the app. But let's take a look. So I want to do a little quick intro of components and kind of what they are. And now let's show some examples of how they actually work. So here's a pop-up component. So I have a example screen here. And if I open this up, you can see here's my pop-up component. It's like a cool little brick thing here with the little icon. And it's not visible right now, since it's my pop-up. But if I click play, and let's say this is here's my example form that, right, it doesn't matter too much what this is showing, but let's say we're wanting to like delete this item or something, right? So we want to have a pop-up come up and have our component do something. So I can go over here and click on delete, and that pulls up this little pop-up right here. And here's my, it kind of blurs the background, right? And I can cancel, I can delete the item. If I hit cancel, it makes the component go away. And so that's a basic example of a component. And the cool part is I can copy this whole component, that whole pop-up, and move it to another screen. I can take it and put it into another app. If I want to use it in another app. And so that's really, really helpful. And I haven't customized this one very much. You can spend a lot of hours. Let me actually bring it up again. Okay. So what you can do is you can customize it a lot more to actually to be able to do different things, right? So with this component, it's saying delete this ? Right? That's probably not the best message. Probably should be a little more specific, but then I've got two buttons here. But here's the really cool part, and this is just a basic example of a component, and especially we were just talking about this before we started this, but Power Apps has come a long ways, right, to where you can do a lot more things. And one of the newer things that has been added, I guess it's been around for a little bit, but sometimes it's hard to stay on top of all the new stuff. So I still say newer. But one of the newer things that you can do is there's different properties in the component that will actually allow you to customize what happens when you click a button. And so I have a custom property right here. So up here is here's what's on the component for, whatever component I'm using. Hey, it still has a visible property. Where's the position of it on the screen? And this is the only thing I can customize for just the regular properties of the component. But if I want to add more things to customize for my component, we'll show how to do that. But I can add what are called custom properties, and that'll allow me to, hey, I want to be able to change the color of the component or the layout a little bit, or the sizing, or what are the menu items, or right, what are all these different things doing? What does this message say? So we'll talk about how to customize this. And I can also have it do when you click on a button, it can do something. So here's a custom property called cancel button select. So if I click on this, here's all the properties for my component. And this is allowing me to customize what is happening when they click that cancel button. And so right now it's just setting a variable to be false. And this variable is what's deciding if the pop-up is visible or not. So if I set it to false, it turns the visible property to false for my component, and that hides it. So if I go to the visible property of our component, it's just set to that variable, local show pop-up. And if I go to our cancel button again, it's just setting that to false. And if I go to our submit button, it's also setting it to false, but I could add, hey, now I'm going to remove this item, or I could set this up to customize a little bit more to, hey, now we're going to submit this item. It could be I can customize this to be a approval pop-up, right? Like, hey, you're going to approve this item. What approval comments do you want to add, maybe, or something like that, right? Or, hey, do you want to approve this or reject this, right? So you could start to customize these components, and it's the same component, right? It's a pop-up component, but I can change it to be, hey, is this going to approve an item? Is it going to delete something? And I can make it be customizable for the app that it's in, right? Because that's the tricky part about especially this pop-up one, is pop-ups usually are very specific to what you're doing in that particular app or even that particular screen, right? This pop-up, I could use this to delete an item from list 1 in my app, and then I also use the same pop-up to delete another item. And so that's why from a different table, right? So that's why I need to be able to customize, hey, what happens when they click on this button? And so that's really, really cool. This is a newer thing to be able to actually run a formula like this inside of a component, which is super cool. That made me really excited when you're able to do this now. But let's talk about how to actually edit this a little bit. So I'll come up here, and we'll also, I know we'll talk about menu components as well. So we'll kind of build a basic one from scratch a little bit more, I think. I know I didn't want to, this would take forever, right? This would be a 4-hour session if I build everything from scratch. But, so let me go over here to, okay, so now I'm in the Power App Studio. And if you want to look at all of your components, what you can do, and we'll cover this a little bit more, but we have component libraries. If you don't see this, you can come over to more, go to Discover All, and you'll be able to find the component libraries, and then you can pin it and make it show up right here. So we'll cover this a little bit later, but it's like a folder of components. I just call it, I have a cohort, so here's my little cohort components. So here, this is interesting, right? If you've never used components, I'm going into a little component library to edit different components that I have. So here's a really basic component here, but over here is I don't know why when I was preparing this session, I saw this and I was like, what is this? I don't know, but I kept it because it's funny. But so here's my pop-up component. And this is different. This is not something we're used to as much, right? We're usually here on the screens, but over here I'm on components now, and this is also kind of strange because I'm just editing components right now. I'm not dealing with an app really when I'm going into this component library, and so I'm just building. Hey, these are just different components that I can use, that I can bring into an app. And so this pop-up right here, when I'm editing the component, I can change the text of this and things like that. I can change how many buttons there are and what the colors are. But if you notice, once I've added it to my app, there's really not much that I can change unless I've set it up to be able to change, right? So I've manually set it up in the component to have these custom properties here. So I can say, hey, what's happening when you hit cancel? What's happening when you hit delete? But let's say we want to change, make this message right here dynamic. So let's come over here. And by the way, I'll also show how to make this blurry because I think that's kind of fun. That's a fun thing. So I will show that too. So let's go over here and let's just show how to change this message here. And tell me if I'm talking too long. I tend to talk.
No problem. No problem. So one question before we go further is, so my question in my mind has ever been, so there was so many changes regarding yet another markup language, and so I have the idea what will Microsoft change regarding to components is in my head the code. So I know it's now possible to get the code on a component, and so if I take a look on this, so with what could be a future strategy to handle components, because a component library are located on an environment, on one environment, and you can if you work with so many environments, this could be a little bit crazy. And it could be better to have, for example, a markup language with a picture or something like that of a component, and you can say, "Oh, put me in your the code." So for the future, so that I know this component structure is okay, but I didn't know the way where Microsoft want to go in the future. So it's I think and governance problem at the moment, I think, regarding to the government. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I think there's lots of different strategies that people use. I with me with like the governance or kind of managing components, I built everything with most everything with a template app. And so I have a template app that also has template components inside of it. So I have a menu component and a navigation component, and that's honestly those are the main two. I occasionally will use a pop-up component as well. Those are kind of the big three. But as far as like managing a little bit more, it's interesting. I'm wondering what they will continue to change and continue to update with that whole world. Right. But what I usually do is it depends on the situation, right? So sometimes you are the only person at the company building apps, or maybe it's you and like a few other people, right? Sometimes there's teams and teams of people building apps, and that's where you got to get on the same page of if you're wanting your apps to look similar, if you're wanting to use the same components or not. And that's what you're saying with like environments and stuff too, then it could get kind of crazy and people are reinventing the wheel a lot when there's already, a menu component that's been used on 20 different apps, but then a new team comes on and they build a new menu component, right? It can get kind of crazy. Hopefully I know I'm not really answering your question very well, but I think
this is really a reality. Yeah, this is reality because component strategy would ever be a part of a theming strategy and coding and code strategy for an SYG strategy. This could be a big strategy or I would say standard components and structures, or it could be everything in Power Apps that could be harmonized in a company. And if you are more than one, it could be complicated. Yeah, I think it's the same answer. I think.
Yeah. I think but that's a good thing to think about. And when I first started, I didn't think about those things very much. I was just like, this is really fun. Let's build a menu and let's build all these different things. And and you don't think about it very much until you start to run into those issues. And so now I think about it all the time, which I feel like you sometimes have to learn the hard way. But anyways, yeah, you can have a good strategy with it. I think you're right. It definitely ties in with the theming and the look and feel of the apps across the company. But that's a good strategy, is to have things feel the same as best you can across the company. Any Power App that you're building is using a similar look and feel for the most part, if you can. That can be really helpful. I've been in situations where people are using 4 or 5 different Power Apps, and they all look similar, and the menus are all different and everything, and it's like, whoa, it feels like I'm using 5 like different tools when they should all feel. I'm going too long on this maybe, but this will be my last thing. But this is a good point to talk about why components are really helpful, though, is I like how Microsoft does it. When you move from Power Apps to Power Automate to SharePoint to whatever, they all feel like their own thing, but they also feel very similar, to where you're familiar with how they work, right? Like this top part right here, this basically looks the same. It's just purple for Power Apps, but in Power Automate, right, it's super similar, same type of idea. If they changed this top bar up here, like depending on what tool you're using, and they made it way different, that would be so confusing. So that's kind of an example, right? You could think of this top bar up here as like a component. But anyways, I think that's using them in a good way can be really, really helpful, and it saves a lot of time. It's just so nice. But yeah, so let me talk about how we could customize this message right here. So I will go to our pop-up, and you can see over here I've got some different custom properties that I can create. So let's just add a custom property that will be text that I'll be able to change what this message is once I've added my component to the app. So I'll go to new custom property. And here's where things can get overwhelming if you're new to components, right? And especially even if you have been using components, they do have lots more types now. So they've made it differently. They've changed it. So we've got data, function, event, action. If you haven't seen these before, but you've seen the other ones, you'll be most familiar with data. So data is kind of what they used to be. And so we'll talk about these other ones a little bit. I can add a little link that just explains all of these in a simple way and shows examples. My best advice ever is just to play around with these and to create your own little component and just see how it works. They're kind of weird, and right, because even just seeing how I've done this pop-up thing, it's pretty different if you're just used to building regular Canvas apps without components. And so that's my biggest tip. It can seem really weird. You can watch a lot of videos and things like that, but until you actually start building one and just playing around with it, then everything will start to click. So I'll keep it on this data one right now, and Microsoft does a pretty good job at just explaining what it is, what each of these are. But I can name this, and I can say, hey, this is going to be the pop-up message. And we could give it a description if we wanted to. And now we have property definition. So is it an input or an output property? So input means once I've added my component to the app, I can now change that property. So that's what we want. I think of it as once I've added it into the app, I can now input something into that component and change something inside of it. An output property is once I've added it to the app, I can now pull something out of the component, pull information out of it, right? Maybe I think of it like a calculator. I think I saw someone build a calculator one time, and I was like, wow, that's crazy. That's pretty intense. Like a calculator component. And that was, they probably learned a lot, honestly, by building that. But I was like, man, I feel like that's a lot. So anyways, but that, I think of that as like, if you have like a calculator component, right, and you want to get the value of, right, 2 + 2 = 4, you want to get what has been calculated, you want to pull that out of the component and get that information out. That's where you would use an output property. And you would define, once we create this, you would define what that would be, right? So, and just to kind of show how this works, with this component right here, I can't, like, if I add something into my app, I can't see what this value is right here. I can't see this text. I can't see what is happening this inside of this component, because there's not an output property that's showing me, right? Normally when we're in Canvas apps, I can say, hey, let me go ahead and close this real quick. That's some other component that we have here. Let's just bring that away. Normally in Canvas apps, I can click on this and say, hey, what's inside of this text input? I could go like this and say text input 1, or whatever two dot text, and say, hey, what's been typed inside of here? Start typing something, right? But with a component, you can't see what's inside of it, right? So you have to use a output property. That's kind of how that works. So hopefully that made sense. But let's do an input property, since we want to change this text right here. So the input, we want to keep it text. They have a lot of other types, which is kind of cool. And notice they actually have like a screen type, which is interesting. But there's, right, this is where you can change the color. Do you want to change the color of this delete button right here, right? You can do a lot of different stuff. That's really neat that you can play around with. So we'll go ahead and click create. We have our pop-up message. And now if I click on it right here, this is just what it is by default. Once I've added this to an app, I can change this. But I can go ahead and say, do you want to delete this? Maybe that's a good message. Maybe it's not. I don't know. But so that's our default property right here. And then I'll go over here and click on this text, or this label, and I'll go to the text property. And now what I can do is I can reference a property inside of my component. So I can just say, hey, the name of my component is Popup. And I usually should say like CMP Popup or something like that. I should rename this something like that, right? That'd probably be a better idea. But for now, we'll just call it Popup. Popup, if I do a period, now I can see all those different things all those different properties that I've created, as well as just the default ones, right? So visible height and all that. But I can also see pop-up message that I just created. So we'll say pop-up message. And now it's pulling in that property that I created, the default value of that property. Do you want to delete this item? So I'm going to go ahead and click save. And then I will publish it. It's kind of weird, right? I'm publishing a component instead of an app, right? So that's kind of interesting. So I'll publish that. We will go over to our app now, and it's so sad, but we will delete this component real quick. So this is the interesting part that I should explain. I've changed the component. I've published the changes, but if I click this component hasn't updated, right? And I can't like refresh this component. So when you pull in a component into your app from the library, it's not actually going to be like pointing to any changes that you make in the future. So once you pull in that component, that's what the component is inside of this app. If I go and make changes to that component, it won't make changes to the apps where those components are in, or the components where, oh my gosh, I've got today. My brain isn't working. I've been sick for a while. So, anyways, but so this isn't this. This is only gonna. These changes that I'm making will only apply to when I add the component again. So it's not actually updating the component right here, as you can see.
I just want to add in that
Yeah.
after you publish, you have to wait a couple minutes, 3 to 5. Somewhere in the Dataverse world, it will take some time. But then if you actually refresh this page, it will actually have a banner. It's like, do you want to update the existing components? When you click update, that's when the new ones will kind of show up when you add a new one there.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for adding that. I think that's awesome. That is awesome. And I should show that. I wish that. I mean, that's pretty fast, honestly. That's pretty fast. But so I guess I won't say I wish, because that's pretty awesome already. But we'll show that you can just add a regular component into your app, and it will update it immediately. So if you add a component into your app, it's just inside of your app, right? So if I'm in my app now, I go to components, I can do a new component, same experience as before, but this component just lives inside of my app, just inside of this app. And if I update it here, it will update that component wherever I have it inside of the app. So that's Anyway, yeah. So thanks for bringing that up. That's awesome. I'm gonna this will be a good way to show how to actually bring it in too. But thanks for adding that. That was actually awesome.
Yeah, no worries.
Let's see. So I have the sick brain, and so you're helping me.
You're good.
I don't know if other people call it sick brain. That's what my wife calls it. So I've called it. So if I go to pull in a component from the component library, right, I can go down to, here's library components. Here's my pop-up that I've had. So I'm going to just remove this from app so we can show how to add it in here. So let's hit remove. Let's wait. Okay. I can't do it from here, so don't try to do it from this insert tab up here. You got to come right here. And you can click on get more components. And here's my library of components right here. And I can click on
do a little refresh first.
Oh yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Or sometimes you might have to refresh your designer to get the new published version.
Let's hope. Let's see. We'll see what happens. I don't know.
Awesome.
Oh, brought it in. Okay, good. Okay. The Power Apps gods like us. Okay, so now I won't like customize this fully like we did with the other one that I had to save a little bit of time here. But let's go to this pop-up message. And now you can see, because this is a input property when I created it, I can actually input some information in here and change what this error message could be. And so now I could say, are you sure you want to delete this item? And now that changes the message, right? So that's kind of cool. That could be a neat thing. Here's where I could, here's what's happening with the cancel. Here's what's happening with the submit. That's where I can go in here and add in my variables and setting those and all that different stuff, right? So that's pretty cool. This is kind of the basic foundations of how components work. Just to pause real quick, just because I know I'm going to forget, to do this little blurred background. I'm not like a professional HTML wizard person or anything like that. So there is probably an easier way to do this perhaps, but I have a HTML control, which is actually really helpful for a lot of different things.
I do want to interrupt just a little bit. We are running low on time for this. If we can speed it up a little bit, so we can talk about navigations and more advanced stuff as well.
Yeah, that sounds good. I'll just copy in this little code, this little HTML code to do that blurred background. So if anyone wants that, you can pause and copy this all down. But that just blurs the background. Yeah, but no, yeah, let's go a little quicker here. Yep, I told you we should have made it 2 hours. 4 hours.
I didn't want to be the bad guy, but we have a lot more exciting things we want to talk about.
You're a trainer. Yes, you want to take time for your audience.
Just keep going. Oh my gosh. No, that's okay. That sounds great.
So, but
Yeah.
I know components about the navigations because most navigations fail. So if you have no components, it's nearly not possible to create a perfect navigation. And regarding to what we talk about the governance and navigations are I think components are absolutely necessary. Could you show us a quick demo about navigation?
Yeah, let's do that. I'll go ahead and show how this works with just creating a component inside of the app now. So not in the component library. So now let's do components here. And here's a blank component. Let's just delete that one actually. Oh, okay. Let's go to components. I can do new component. I can also import and export components here as well. So if you have another app, you want to import a component into it, right? You can pull that in. Or like I share my component, you can pull that in as well. So here's new component. We'll call this CMP menu, awesome menu, because it's awesome. And we don't have too much time. So I'm not going to spend forever making it look amazing. I do want to show a little neat trick that I like to do, at least to make it look a little bit better. But let's do a menu component here. So the way I like to do it is just use a gallery. So we'll add a gallery. I am a classic person. I like the modern ones too, for a lot of things, but whatever reason, I just use the classic gallery. I don't know why. So here's our gallery. We're not going to connect to any data or anything like that, but let's go ahead and resize this. This is going to be like a really interesting menu navigation here, but let's resize a little bit and make it.
Do you want to do a hamburger at top or the side navigation?
We'll do a side nav. So this will be like on the left here. So we'll try to do something like, oh, now I don't have my little within the full screen mode. We'll try to do something kind of like this. I mean, it won't be quite this amazing, but we'll do something kind of like this. So let's go over here to our app again. And I didn't show this before, but I can actually change. This is kind of the canvas of my component, and I can change this a little bit. So let's make the width be like 300. Who knows if that's probably decent. And we'll have our gallery just stretch out like that. And let's add in, since we don't have much time, we'll just do a button and we'll try to make this look as nice as possible. And we'll change this to like subtle. So if I hover over these, yeah, it looks pretty good. I'll come up here, do icon. We'll just make it be the home icon just for default right now. So give a little icon, got text. So now let's create, hey, what are our actual items in the menu going to be? So we want these items in the menu to be changeable. So when we add this menu component to other apps, we can change what the menu options are. So we want to create a input property for our menu items. So we'll say go up here, new custom property, menu items, and we're keeping the property type is data. I used event type when I wanted to do those buttons. When you click on the button, it triggers an event to actually set a variable or whatever you want it to do, right? So that's what I used on those. But we'll keep this data. We'll do an input property, come up here and go to table. And I'll go ahead and click create. Now, if I click on this, it just pulls in like a random table pretty much. And again, this is the default value. So the idea here is I want to create a like example table of what it will, what it could look like. What are the fields that are going to be available? And then when I actually pull this into the app, I can add more items and change what those properties are and things like that. But this is kind of like a sort of like the creating the schema for the menu items. What are the different fields in the menu going to be? What are the different data types? Is it going to be text or number, whatever it is, right? So let's keep it pretty simple, and we'll just say here is the name. We want, this will be home, and we could add like an icon. So I'll show that too. This icon is the home icon. So let's say this one's like the dashboard or something, just to make a little more sense. So let's go over here to our last property, and we'll say we've got home icon. Now we want to know when they click on an item, it's going to actually, or menu item, it's going to actually take them to another screen. So the cool part I can do here is say like navigate to. So here, where are they going to go when they click on this? Now, when I'm in this component right now, I can't access any of the information in my actual app, right? Because this is technically supposed to be used across multiple different apps, or it should be able to be used across multiple apps. So I don't want to be able to reference something that's actually in my app. So I can't say like the form screen or something like that. It doesn't know. Well, it does right now, because let's see. I've turned on selected components report. Oh, that's interesting. I can't really access other things in my app unless I go over here and do access app scope, and I turn that on. It'll point to that. This will allow me to point to things inside of the app. But correct me if I'm wrong, you can't, once you turn this on, I don't think you can like use this in the component library. I know there's a
component libraries doesn't have access to this. What I usually like to do, navigate to app.active screen, just to make it work so it doesn't air out on us until we get to a app. But for now, we can turn on access app scope just to show our audience how it actually works. We can do that.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks. I was like, I know that it lets you not. I was pretty sure it doesn't let you do the component library. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. And I usually use the app.active screen. It's nice that you have that. And then if we wanted to, once we've turned this on, now the component knows about everything in our app, and we could specify that more. And so that's kind of a preference. Usually for a menu, right, like you're saying, you probably want to turn it off so you can use your menu across multiple apps. But if you need to, if you're like, this component is only for this app and I'm never going to need it for another app, then you could turn that on, and that would help a lot. So I'll keep it like this for now.
Maybe let's copy that and paste it so we can have a couple different menus to show how it works.
That sounds great. And we'll change this to like view items, and this is the new item or something like that, right? I think let's change. I think there's one called add, and I don't know if that's called list. You'll have to start getting the names of the icons. Add, there's add. I don't know if there's one called lists. Apps list.
Okay.
Okay, I'll change that really quick here. Oh, add apps list. We'll go to our button now, or we'll go to our gallery, and the items property is not this custom gallery sample. It's the comp awesome menu dot menu items. So now it's pulling in those items, that property from our component. And now we can customize these buttons to start pulling in that information. So the text of these is this item dot name. The icon is, since this is really just text, like the name of the icon, it knows if it's this is text, but it'll go find the icon for that. So I can say this item dot icon. That's kind of cool. And then when you click on the button, it will navigate to this item dot navigate to. And I always do the fade one.
Same.
I like it. That's funny. I always joke that maybe one day they'll add like the PowerPoint ones where it's like pixely, or it'll like do a whole. Anyways, that'd be crazy. But I think the fade one is like the only one that I ever use. But anyways, okay. So now this is working here. Maybe the last thing that we want to do is in our button, the type. Or the
Yep, that's always my favorite, I would say.
I like that. That's kind of outline. I'm trying to. I don't want to take too long, but so we could. Let me just explain that we could do like, hey, if app.active screen equals this item dot navigate to. So if you are on that screen, then be button canvas, right? Instead of subtle, do the other one. Oh my goodness. Anyways, so yeah, okay. So I think I'll just back out of this since we don't have much time. But so that's how you can make it look different if you're on that screen. Maybe you disable it or something like that, right? So you can't click on it. But let's go ahead and add it to our app now. We'll come over here, and I'll move. This isn't like a fully responsive app, but let's move this over. So the X is like 300. And this one, the X is 300. And our form screen, the X is 300. Okay. So now we'll go here, go to insert. And now it's not going to show up in library because that's from our library components. It'll be right here. This is the components we've added into our app. So it just says custom. So we'll add this. Here's our awesome little guy right here. And then we've got, I'll just copy this, paste it down. Oh, come on, little fella. It doesn't want to copy right now, but okay, here we go. Paste. Oh, okay, allow paste. And paste. Okay, so now we've got our component. And the really neat thing is if I go over here and say, hey, I want the alignment of this button to actually be on the left, and I come back here, I don't need to do anything else. It's just made that update on all of my different screens, right? So that's super cool. If I want to, for our menu items, I'll go ahead and grab this, and let's go to our app. We could do this on the OnStart. I usually like to do this with the formulas. So I actually have a few different things here, but right here, and say, hey, here's our NF menu items. So I like these formulas is my favorite thing now.
In here, let's change the, what is it called? The screens here before you have to go change it again.
Okay, yeah. Home screen. Home screen and vendors screen and form screen. All right, so now that we've created our little menu items in a variable here, just copy that, go over here, and now probably should have waited to copy my component, but now we'll come over here and do menu items, change this on all of these. Screen, menu items, and say, hey, so now I've kept the field names, right? So I've kept the field names to match what was in here already. I've only changed the screens, but now it's just pointing to a variable. So if I add a new menu item, I just add it in my formulas, right? And that would add a new menu item across all the components. So now if I click play, go to new item, or go on the new item, go to view items, takes me there. dashboard. Doop. And it's pretty neat. If you want, I know we don't. I am like just taking forever to go through things, but
You're explaining it really well, much better than I can, for sure.
oh man, but if it's all right, I'll show one last little UI tip, I guess.
Okay.
So let's pull this down all the way. I'll go to our components, and something that I like to do is I add in a container. All right, here, and I have it take up the whole screen or the whole component, and I make the drop shadow be like regular, semi-bold, something. And then I actually make the X value be 300. So it's technically off of the component. And then I make sure there's no border or anything. But it just gives this little faint line on the right. So if we go back to the screen.
That is so cool. I've been wanting to do that on inside the container, but it doesn't really work.
Oh man, that's so interesting. But that's kind of
but you can tip. I have seen people put it inside the HTML as well as a background. I'm like, okay, I'll figure it out when the time comes.
Yeah, I know. That's and I'm not like a master of HTML either, so I can't remember where. But I love the drop shadows when they added these containers. I don't know what it is. I love them so much, and so when I was like, oh, let me try to add it on the side, because I like how this one works. It has like a little drop shadow on the edge there. So anyways, that's a little cool, fun little tip, I guess. But that's it for our little menu component here.
Really good.
Cover anything else, or should we go another hour? Or
I think we need a second show with you in the next year where we go with the other topics. So because the components are so important for Power Apps, Canvas apps, and it's only the start here. So I think so if you want, you can join for a second show. I love it really today, but so we are running out of time, and we have 2 questions. I think so. I hope Mirko behind the show with 2 questions. Where's the first one? We talk about this a little bit. Could you store components as yet another markup language in a Dataverse somewhere?
You know what? I think, can you copy? Yeah, I mean, you can copy it like this. I don't. Do you know the answer to that question? I don't know if you can actually with components.
Is there a view code on the components tab? Like if you slide it over, because I know you can copy the code, but not if you don't have the component in there. View code real quick. Yeah, I think you might be able to just store this somewhere.
That's a really good idea. That's great. That's a really good question. I think you might be able to then, because this looks like it would. Yeah, definitely not. Definitely don't copy it from here like I did. Copy it from here. I think
I haven't.
What we do in our IP team is we save our workflows and all the data from Logic apps into GitHub. So this could be part. So if you're working with source control, to work with GitHub here, but for I think and tiny component work, I think it's too much. But so if you want to build an company-wide strategy, GitHub could be a helpful way.
Yeah, and that's cool. That's a great point, because so what I just did is we're all figuring this out together. This is awesome. So I copied the code. This is interesting, but I created a new component, and I just hit paste, and it just added it here. So that's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, especially in different tenants. I wonder how that transfers.
That's awesome. Yeah, or like I could say, hey, do you guys want this menu that I just created? Here's the code, and I could just paste this in the chat and give it to you. So that's pretty cool, actually. That was a great question. That's like #1 question. I love it. That's awesome. Was there another question?
Yeah, there's the second one. I think this was regarding to use with multiple environments where we talk. I think Beth comes a little bit late. We talk about this regarding to component libraries between the different environments, dev, UAT, prod, and how it works when you do pipelines development. I think we discuss it here with two, but ALM deployment, would a little bit not integrated into this. So this is only related for apps. What do you think about it?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Let me quickly create an example solution here. So what do I even have? I haven't set this environment up very well, but so let's add a little solution here. So it'll move, like if you're using your components inside of your app and your app is in a solution and you're moving that to another environment, it's going to pull those components over just fine. I don't believe that it lets you so let me explain this. Once you've moved a component library to another environment, right, that's like a new instance of that, like a copy of all those components, right? So that you'd be managing the components across multiple environments, even though it could be the same like library of components, if that makes sense. So my strategy has always been like keep the library in your development and just use that library of components in your apps and then move those apps and solutions over to UAT and production and everything. But you might not necessarily need to move the component library to testing and production, right? Because you won't really need to access them. You'll just be accessing them in development. I don't know if you guys have a different thought on that. I mean, you technically can add a component library into your solution, which is really cool if you wanted to, like, right? So that's really nice if you're going to maybe move across tenants or you're going to like move it to another development environment or something. You're like, hey, I want all my components right in my library. You could put that into a solution, right? So that's really helpful. But moving across UAT and development and production and everything, I don't think you need to include it in the solution, and those components in your apps will just move over, right, just fine. Do you guys have anything else to add to that question? That's a really good question too, though.
Yeah, that is a really good question, but it just depends on this component library is just for the solution or for everybody in this environment, right? So if it's all these 6 other apps are using it, then I would just package the component library by itself and deploy ALM process. And but it's only for your app or like your own solution to just add it into the solution when pushing to the next environment. That's my advice would be. Marcel, do you have anything to add to that?
I think this is the right way here. But so this is my it's like as we started with the discussion. So with my feeling, what we see in our last demo part here with the Yetonama markup language, I think so there must be a way to make this easier for everything. So that means, for example, an example app with all, not with all components in it, with all code within, for example, a tiny image or something else. This could be, I think, for me, the best way for every developer in a bigger or small company to get all the features or all the components. So if you work with more than 1 or 2 or 5, or so I have one customer with more than 800 environments, and when it's if your customers on this level, it makes totally sense to have an I would say an app way you can handle this, because solution is only, it's not an easy way, and an app could be the easiest way, but I never built it. So if we have someone in the audience you have built a solution like that, I want to see it. So I think this could be the best strategy. So this is only my idea here, but I never see it. But your way is the best way at the Microsoft standard. So I think we're running out of time. We have more than 1 hour. So I think we must come back
for part 2
next year.
We need to go.
Yeah, we need a part 2. It was a really cool show. I really like components. Isabel, some closing words from your side.
So I guess everybody knows you built once and you reuse it everywhere, and your future self will love you for it. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel again. So that's my closing statement.
So,
anything for you, Ben?
Yeah, Ben. So first, Ben. So
I don't think so. I think I mean, the best, like I said before, just messing around with these, playing around with them. Definitely use them for menu navigation. I slowly built a nicer and nicer menu navigation over the years, and I just have that component that I just use across the apps, right? And so that's a really helpful one. If you combine like an app template with all your different components that you use for each app, it saves 20 to 30 hours every project. And maybe, I mostly work with desktop apps, so that's kind of mine's tailored to that. But maybe you've got like your menu nav or your side menu nav. You've got, your one on the bottom for mobile, right? You've got a few different ones. They're really, really fun. They're kind of addicting, honestly, because you can start really playing with them and customizing them and things like that. So you can spend a lot of time on these. But yeah, play around with them. And I'm available on LinkedIn, I guess, for any questions. You can reach out. Sometimes I take a little while to respond, but I do try to respond. But yeah, thanks so much for having me on this show. This has been really cool. You'll have to send me the song at the beginning. I'll listen to it every morning.
We thank you. And the next show will be on the 18th of December with Andrew Hess. And a big announcement in the 2nd and 3rd January week. We're starting with the M365 Con stays for convention. So it would be a big convention for more than 10 days with workshops. Not only for Power Platform, for Fabric, Azure, and M365 apps, and Copilot Studio, and so too. Isabel will join us. I'm really happy to be. Yeah, I'm really happy to be the host of this convention. So more than 28 MVPs from worldwide have signed. And take a look on m365con.net. And have a nice day and see you soon.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Have a good day.
The Microsoft ecosystem is evolving faster than ever. Copilot, Power Platform, security, modern work, Azure AI, new features every week, new opportunities every day. But learning is scattered. Events are expensive, limited, and difficult to access. That changes now. Welcome to M365Con, the world's largest online Microsoft 365 convention. 2 powerful weeks, 1 week of workshops, 1 week of free global talks and keynotes. Build your own learning path with expert-led workshops. From Power Platform to security, from Copilot to Azure AI, you choose what matters to you. Then join over 60 free sessions with most valuable professionals, Microsoft trainers, architects, and innovators from around the world. Meet the community, explore the virtual expo, connect with experts, and be part of a global Microsoft experience. Accessible, global, interactive, and designed for every Microsoft 365 professional. M365 Con, your community, your learning path, your Microsoft 365 future.